Hey, what's going on, Dat Nation? Welcome to another edition of the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. My name is TJ Jones. Thanks for checking out the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Well, Dat Nation, we are very, very close to the very first game of preseason. The New Orleans Saints will take on the Minnesota Vikings. And I know a lot of people in the Dat Nation are extremely excited to know that football is back and the New Orleans Saints will start the season off in the Dome. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but first, got to give some storylines about the New Orleans Saints. We know about training camp. Training camp has really been good. We got Michael Thomas. He's finally back. He's been practicing, and a lot of people have been having some comments about Michael Thomas. Is he worth the $100 million? I put a video out on the State of the Saints on Facebook, and a lot of people had things to say because, it was the video of Marshawn Lattimore and Michael Thomas lined up against each other. So a lot of people don't really think that Michael Thomas is worth the $100 million, which was shocking to me. I really don't understand that. But he is back at camp. And, it's good to have all of the offensive weapons back, and you add Jared Cook. And you see people like Dan Arnold, who was with the Saints last year. He came towards the tail end of the season, and now he's coming into his own. You see so many great bright spots on the offense for the New Orleans Saints, a lot of young talent. Speaking of young talent, Emmanuel Butler, the standout of training camp for the first 4 days of camp. He has not practiced in, I think, maybe like 4 days, man. And that's very, very alarming and very concerning because a lot of people didn't think Emmanuel Butler was going to go to training camp because he ended up injuring himself during minicamp, and the Saints cleared him just around the time of training camp. And he did a good job, man. A lot of people were able to pay attention to him because Michael Thomas wasn't there. He was holding out at the time. But now we see that the guy is being injured. And we don't want that. I want to see this young man on the field. You put him on the field alongside Michael Thomas, they probably can do a lot of big things, man. So hopefully he can get himself back together, back healthy, so he can be out there on the field. And also Trey Kleinschmidt, man. Trey Kleinschmidt has been doing an outstanding job going into his second season with the Saints. He was very young, very green last season. He talked a little bit about that to the press. He talked about how he was just out there thinking. He was trying to make sure that he didn't make mistakes. And a lot of the things offensively that the Saints did kind of confused them, especially when it came to Drew Brees audibling at the line. He said that he would focus on the actual play that Drew would call. And, of course, Drew will adjust these guys and make them be in position to make plays. But, of course, Trey Kleinschmidt was a little bit nervous. So he said this year he's a little bit more acclimated. He understands the playbook. And you can tell, man, because he's out there making plays left and right. And he seems like he's a little bit more sure of himself. And speaking of sure of himself, I got to give props to rookie safety Shaco Hampton, the rookie out of Rutgers. Now, the Saints drafted this guy late in the draft because they looked at him as more of a special teams player. And Sean Payton told the media that that's what his role is going to be. But for the last couple days of training camp, and of course the black and gold scrimmage, Shaco Hampton has made plays. He caught an interception from Drew Brees and another one from Teddy Bridgewater, and he's been opening a lot of eyes. A lot of people in the Dat Nation and the media have been talking about him, and you have to get this guy a look. Now, you can say that he's the reason why he's playing because Marcus Williams has been injured for the past couple of days, so they had to put him in. But that's the way things are sometimes. I mean, one guy goes down and another guy comes in, and this guy goes out here and exceeds expectations. I don't think the New Orleans Saints should just fully focus on this young man as just being a special teams player if he showed that he has a knack of getting around the football and he can generate turnovers. I know they got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, the rookie out of Florida, to serve as that role. But if Shaco Hampton is out there making plays, you got to get this guy a look. So you got to be very, very excited about the secondary of the New Orleans Saints. Eli Apple, it seems like he's improving. A lot of people in the Dat Nation last season were very, very upset over the last couple games that Eli Apple played. I mean, he was very inconsistent. One game he'll play really well, then the next minute he's out there getting beat like a Persian rug, smoked like brisket, burnt like a biscuit, But I mean, Eli Apple this season, this is his first training camp with the Saints, and he's really been doing some good things. Now, you can make an argument to say that this is the last year of his contract, and maybe the New Orleans Saints maybe won't sign him, and he's probably interviewing for other teams. But nevertheless, I mean, if he's going to go out there and perform, I'm glad that he's performing at a high level when the Saints really need him to do so. And I want to talk about Marshawn Lattimore. The third-year corner, the shutdown corner, has really been doing an outstanding job at practice. Of course, at the beginning of this video, I talked about the video of him and Michael Thomas, and it seems like he was getting the best of Michael Thomas. And that's what you want to see, man. I know a lot of people are like, man, $100 million for Michael Thomas, $100 million. But I don't think you understand how great this is, man. These guys are not going to line up against each other every Sunday. So if you have a good, really, really good receiver in Michael Thomas lined up against a really, really good cornerback, and these guys are really fighting, and you see Marshawn Lattimore really getting the best of it, that's what you want to see, man, because they're going to go up against some elite talent. Michael Thomas going to go up against elite talent at the cornerback position every Sunday. And Marshawn Lattimore is going to go up against people like Mike Evans and Julio Jones at least, twice a season. So, I mean, looking at these two guys and seeing them battle and seeing that some days that Marshawn Lattimore is getting the best of Michael Thomas and then Michael Thomas is getting the best of Marshawn Lattimore, you have to be proud of that as a Saints fan. I have no problem with it, and I honestly don't understand how anybody would have an issue with that, especially if you're a Saints fan. And, of course, we got to talk about the Saints matchup, the first game of preseason, New Orleans Saints. It's a home game. It's been a while since the New Orleans Saints had opening preseason home game, man. They usually travel on the road, but they will be taking on the Minnesota Vikings. What do I expect from this game? I expect to see some people who are probably on the I would say on a bubble to go out there and make some plays. Of course, you're not going to see the usual suspects. You won't see Drew Brees. You won't see Cameron Jordan. You won't see Michael Thomas. You won't see Alvin Kamara. If you probably do, you'll probably just see them one series, if that. I want to see what these young players can do. I'm excited to know what some of these young wide receivers can do. Wide receiver nobody seems to be talking about. I'm talking about Lil Jordan Humphreys, man, the guy out of Texas. I thought that he would come to the New Orleans Saints and come to training camp, and a lot of people would be talking about him. I'm interested to see what he's going to do. I'm interested to see what Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is going to do against other talent. I'm interested to see if Shaco Hampton, he can make some plays against this Minnesota Vikings team and stand out. That's what I'm looking for, man. I mean, we all know how great Drew Brees is, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Cam Jordan, etc. But I want to see what some of these young guys can do. They need to show the Dat Nation and show the NFL, even if the Saints can't keep them, that they can play at an elite level and they can be on somebody's NFL team. But this has been the State of the Saints podcast. Please subscribe to the State of the Saints podcast on YouTube. YouTube.com, search the State of the Saints podcast. Also on Facebook, search the State of the Saints podcast. And previous episodes are available on iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio.com. Till next time, all I have to say is, who dat?